We are in the Research and Publishing Office of the South Dakota State Historical Society. And it's also the headquarters of the South Dakota Historical Society Press. Back in the day, back in 1997, when I started this press, I felt that it was a niche we could fill in South Dakota. Nobody was doing our history seriously. I shouldn't say nobody, that's not fair, but there wasn't a concerted effort to do publishing for the state of South Dakota in a meaningful way. To do it right, you have to have some experience, and we had really garnered that experience through doing the journal, which is essentially a 100-page book that we did every 4 months, or every 3 months was a quarterly. So I felt that we really had the expertise to start doing something more sophisticated. Doing books about the state seemed like something that, you know, we were letting other people do, other presses in the region a little bit. But as I said, you know, if you let other people write your history, you may not, it may not be what you want or expect. Mm-hmm. So I thought, let's take that back. Let's do it right. Let's do it well. Let's do it with all the standards of a New York publishing company, all the standards of a university press in terms of scholarship. So that's what we set out to do. Well, you know, you measure success in different ways. Some of our books are not financially successful at all, but they go to fulfill our mission. So they are things that we have to do. And I'll give you a good example. We did a book called Principle Over Party, and it's a book about the South Dakota populist movement, which was actually the first populist movement in the country, the first People's Party back in 1890. It predated the Kansas Party and some of the other parties by about a month, which is irrelevant in the big picture, but there had never been a study of the South Dakota populist movement. So I really felt that was an important piece of our history that just had never been done. So I talked an author into, I gave him a pitch and said, you know, we really need to do this. But that book just went out there and went into a black hole. We just didn't sell it. In fact, I hate to say this, politics doesn't sell, or we haven't found a way to sell it. We do a lot of politics. There's a lot of interest in politics, but it's very finite. It's a very small group, and I don't know if it's because the reach doesn't get beyond the state somehow. You'd think it would, because as I explained about the book on populism, I mean, that was a national movement. It started in this region, but it was a national movement. We've had some amazing national politicians, from Tom Daschle, George McGovern, Francis Case, and we have an interesting politics. So I don't know. To answer your question, I don't know why it doesn't sell. And maybe it is that we just don't know how to touch up the right market for it. It's part of our mission, so the fact that it doesn't sell is irrelevant, because we will continue to look at it. I suspect that what's going to sell, and we've got some things coming up, are biographies of politicians. People like biography, and they like political biography, they like literary biography, they like anything with that human center. And we have this little biography series here. It's called the South Dakota Biography Series, which we designed to be inexpensive. It's a paperback series. It's designed for people to buy off the newsstand that want to find out more about famous South Dakotans. And that one does beautifully well. It does. It's been an exciting little series, because in the beginning, you know, I told people, I said, okay, here's the deal. you read a biography of great men or great women, and half the time they'll go like this. And then they came to South Dakota. The end. And that's it. That's all you get. And I said, I don't want that. I want to know, okay, Wild Bill Hickok essentially came here to die. But he's a big piece of our history in terms of our legend, in terms of just our sense of the Black Hills and what it's all about. So how does that happen? How to place Wild Bill in his place in South Dakota, but reach beyond that, because he goes beyond that. And so that's kind of the story with the whole biography series. They all go beyond that. And it's been exciting because each one of them has been, in a way, not definitive, because they're not big enough to be a definitive history of Wild Bill or Laura Ingalls Wilder or anybody, but they all break some new ground. And that's made them really exciting in and of themselves. I always like stories that are bigger than South Dakota. I like it when they place South Dakota central to the concept or central to what's going on, but as just a piece of the much bigger national story. And that's something they don't think about having to do in Massachusetts, but we have to think all the time about how do we become relevant to the rest of the country who doesn't understand us and doesn't include us. So the Great Plains states like North Dakota and South Dakota feel that they have to explain their relevance to the rest of the country. And I think that's because of a lot of things that indicate that to us. One of the most egregious example, I'll give you another one after that though, but the most egregious example to me is that a few years back, Rand McNally did a series of maps in which they just left a hole where the Dakotas and I think Nebraska and Oklahoma were. Things like that make you think, okay, we don't matter. You know, you look at our electoral college vote. I mean, if we get mentioned in national news during an election, it's a minor miracle. It's a slow news day is what it is. And so it's things like that that make you think, okay, you have to sort of say, hey, guys, we're not irrelevant. Hey, you know, the big pioneering story of the U.S. originates here. And, you know, but I think that the question about bestsellers, too, is to understand that really isn't our job as a press to create bestsellers. We did that with Pioneer Girl, the annotated autobiography, and that was an amazing experience in more ways than one. But that's not really our job. Our job is to tell this history, to tell accurate stories, to preserve the history of the region.